In this video, we're unraveling what makes a sport and an adventure sport. We're going to explore the 3 defining characteristics that set these types of activities apart from all others. From backcountry skiing to trail running in remote mountains, from scuba diving to rock climbing, we'll dissect the details of these activities with the aim to give you a better understanding of what it actually means to do an adventure sport, where your decisions can either lead to a really good time or a not so good time. In the 1980s and 1990s, the term extreme sports emerged and gained popularity. This period witnessed a surge in sports that pushed the limits of danger and excitement, such as base jumping, BMX riding, and snowboarding. The word extreme in extreme sports emphasized the high levels of risk and the adrenaline rush sometimes associated with these activities.
Face death, live life!
However, this term over time began to receive some criticism. Some participants and enthusiasts felt that extreme overly sensationalized the danger aspect, potentially overshadowing the skill, discipline, and the environmental stewardship that's involved in these sports.
Don't call me an adrenaline junkie.
New terms such as action sports and adventure sports came about to better describe these activities. But are all action sports adventure sports and vice versa? The short answer is no. Not all adventure sports are action sports, but almost any sport can become an adventure sport. So what makes a sport or an activity an adventure sport?
Hello, my name's Stefan, I'm the cameraman. I'm French, I'm smoking.
In adventure sports, no one tells you what you can and cannot do. Participants need the wisdom to make critical decisions because wrong choices can lead to serious injuries or even death. An easy comparison to make is resort skiing versus backcountry skiing. One's an adventure sport, one is not.
2, come on out. Front 2 singles left side with these 2 right here.
When you show up at the ski resort has done all the hard work for you. They have made sure that the snow conditions are as safe as they can be. They have made sure that the runs are clearly marked with signs, and they have ski patrol readily available, making sure everyone's abiding by the rules and being safe. Now, resort skiing is fun, don't get me wrong, and it can have its moments of adventure in it. But I wouldn't classify it as being an adventure sport. When you show up in the backcountry, no one's telling you not to go out there. You might get information and suggestions from outside sources giving you tips and insights on what to do and where to go, but at the core, no one can stop you from going. You are responsible for your own choices, and your choices have consequences if done poorly. This element of self-responsibility is how any sport can become an adventure sport. Let's look at trail running. Trail running's not an extreme sport, nor an action sport, and it's not an adventure sport by default. If you live in an outdoorsy town, there's probably tons of trails nearby. The trails are most likely clearly marked, and you probably have 5G cell phone service. And if you were to roll your ankle or something, help would not have a hard time getting to you. It's not that adventurous. But let's say you took the same gear and equipment that you would use for trail running, but instead of doing it at your local trail, you travel to some remote mountain and you decide, you know what, I want to circumnavigate this. And even though this mountain might be in Mexico and have a crazy elevation of like 18,000 feet, and the trail that goes around it has an average elevation of 13,500 feet, with no cell phone service and is poorly marked at best, you decide that this is something I really want to do. You are, at this point, putting yourself in much greater exposure, much greater risk, and it's your choice. You have turned trail running into an adventure sport that requires some serious preparation and mental fortitude.
Good job, dude. Wow, that was hard.
Now let's do another comparison. Skydiving versus scuba diving. One is above the ground and the other is below the ground. And one is an adventure sport and the other is not. Skydiving takes place at commercially operated businesses called drop zones. These drop zones, like ski resorts, make the decisions for all the jumpers for when it's good to jump and when it's not. Drop zones don't fly planes with loads of skydivers if winds are too strong or if there are too many clouds or if it's raining and thunderstorming. Drop zones also have nice landing areas with tons of windsocks, making it easy to have a great landing. All skydivers must also abide by strict rules. These rules include getting certified training and gear that includes a reserve that must be repacked every 6 months by a certified packer. So even though skydiving can be an extreme sport, most of the safety decisions are not made by individual skydivers. If you're a licensed scuba diver and you have your own gear, you are the person who can make decisions on where and when to go diving at your leisure. Kind of like backcountry skiing, no one is telling you not to go out in the water and dive. There's no requirement to have a certified person make sure that your scuba gear is in tip-top shape before jumping into the water. And there are no serious regulations from a legal governing body like the FAA. And because the burden of safety in scuba diving is largely on the individual, scuba diving has more risk than skydiving. And this higher risk factor is proven in the statistics. Yes, believe it or not, scuba diving is more dangerous than skydiving. So are scuba divers more badass than skydivers? Well, we don't want to upset any of the skydiving gods out there, so let's just move on. Another example is gym climbing versus outdoor rock climbing. When you go to the gym and rock climb, you're using their ropes, their holds, their carabiners, their auto belays, and there shouldn't be a lot of surprises there. Yes, you have to tie in your own knots and put on your own harness, but that's not a huge portion of controlling the risk. When you climb outside, you're not only responsible for making sure that your gear's in good shape and that you are tying your own knots correctly, but you're also responsible for making sure you even bring the correct gear to begin with for the routes that you want to go climb. And this leads into the second main point. Adventure sports, for the most part, are using gear as life-saving devices, which is why adventure sports gear tends to cost a lot more money, because it's designed to be light, reliable, and high performing. And every couple of years, gear gets made that makes doing these adventure sports easier, safer, and more fun. It's pretty obvious in sports like base jumping, when you're jumping off a cliff, pulling your parachute, and that parachute is literally saving your life. Same thing for rock climbing. It's pretty obvious that your harness, ropes, carabiners, slings, cams, quick draws, whatever, all those pieces of gear are there to keep you safe on the wall so you can keep pursuing your objective of climbing. Mountain running, maybe not completely obvious, but you are using your shoes and you're using your pack and your water filtration system and your food to keep you alive in these far out remote areas. And if you don't know how to manage your nutrition or your hydration, or you don't know how to pick out the right shoes, you could have some serious issues. What happens if you decide to put on a thick, fresh pair of hiking boots and try to hike down and back up the Grand Canyon? All of a sudden now your feet are sweating, rubbing, and exploding with blisters. Maybe you should have picked some more breathable, lightweight trail running shoes. And you didn't bring any salt tablets or any sodium, so now you're dehydrated, your electrolytes are all out of balance, and your hands and feet start swelling up, making your footwear problem even worse. You made a poor adventure sports choice, and you're paying for those consequences. And you might have to require rescue, and it's going to be a pain in the ass, because you are now in a very remote, hard to get place. And that's the third main difference between adventure sports versus other sports. Adventure sports tend to take place in remote locations far away from help and often with little to no cell phone service. There are some exceptions to these definitions. For example, urban base jumping, hell of an adventure sport, really gnarly, really intense, but doesn't take place in a remote outdoor nature environment. You're in a very urban, densely populated area. But if you sneak into a building or scale up the outside, what do you do if the winds are bad and you can't jump? And you're locked on top of the roof and you can't get back inside or back down. You can't call for help because you're gonna get in trouble, So in a way, you're on your own, and you have put yourself in a hard-to-get remote place within the urban environment that's not easily accessible. And if you're to have an accident and crash into the side of the building and get hung up, it's not much different than being hung up on an actual real cliff. You are going to need some serious help, and it's not going to be easy to get to you safely. So to recap, any sport or activity can become an adventure sport. Adventure sports are characterized by having high levels of self-responsibility, they require the proper use of gear to keep you alive, and they are often done in hard, remote-to-get-to places. If you'd like to add your own 2 cents on this topic, feel free to do so. We're going to be making more educational focused videos for specific adventure sports such as backcountry skiing, base jumping, climbing, and paragliding. So like and subscribe if you're into that, and see you out there.